Well, the Royals season comes to an end. 3-1. Game 4 loss in the ALDS to the Yankees last night out at the K. I know there's pain after losing a playoff game, especially to the Yankees, and losing the series to the Yankees, but the big picture, of course, is an incredible turnaround, one of the great season-over-season turnarounds in Major League Baseball history. And suddenly, you look at the future for this team and you say to yourself, hey, it's bright. Joel Goldberg is here on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. Hit the preset on your radio dial. Joel, good morning. What are you thinking about? What are you feeling this morning as the season comes to an end?
You know, I'd be curious what everyone else is thinking too, because I don't know if everyone is the same here. And what I mean is, you know, if they were supposed to be here, I think everybody would be devastated. And I'm sure there's some people that are devastated, and I know the players are devastated because they expected to be here, and you know they're going to believe in themselves. But for me, and I think a lot of people might be like this, I'm just really happy and satisfied with the year that they had, and you know I'm hesitant to say that a little bit just because you don't want to be okay with losing, and it hurts to end. But sign me up for this 4, 5, 6 months ago or a year ago at this point. The Royals coming off of a 106-loss season. If we were to say that they were not only going to make the playoffs, but they were going to beat a team with a better record in the first round on the road and then play a competitive series but lose against the Yankees, I guess the only part that would really sting is that it was against the Yankees, because most people feel that way unless they're Yankee fans. But, I mean, they completely exceeded expectations from this year, and so I'm really satisfied with what they did, and now looking forward to the future, and you mentioned a very bright future.
So you look at these last couple of games, obviously, you know, the hitting just wasn't there. I think that if you had looked at the last two games, if someone had said going into games 3 and 4 that this team will allow 3 runs in each game against the Yankees, I think you take your chances and say, okay, can we get at least 4 on the board, Joel, right? Yeah. I mean, you got to feel good about the pitching despite the losses and say to yourself the hitting just wasn't there.
Yeah, no, that's it. And this comes in cycles. It happens to every team. It happened to Baltimore against the Royals in the first round. I mean, and really, if you look at it, the Royals just didn't have any offense in the postseason, but they were able to hold down Baltimore's hitting. And you're just not going to be able to do that against the Yankees. And for the most part, like you just mentioned, they did. So they just needed a little bit of offense. So it was a bad time of year for the offense to go into a slump. Offenses go into slumps for a lot of teams in the playoffs because of the quality of pitching that you're facing, because managers will go to the bullpen as quickly as they need to, almost treating everything like it's do or die. And I think that there were stretches of this season, including in September, where the offense just kind of went south. Again, that happens to teams. Nobody's going to be able to quantify this, but I think that there is, well, you can quantify the numbers. I guess I should say that nobody is really going to use it as an excuse internally from the Royals. But their offense wasn't the same after Vinny Pasquantino broke his thumb. It was pretty much considered miraculous that he came back for the playoffs, because he came back a couple of weeks early. They cleared him medically to do that. He looked okay, and the numbers weren't there. Maybe it was just a cold stretch for him. Maybe he was totally healthy and okay. Maybe he wasn't, and they had said that when he came back, he couldn't do any long-term damage to it. He couldn't hurt his chances of getting ready for spring training in time next year. So who knows what kind, if any, pain he was playing through. He's not going to say a whole lot. Guys don't like to make excuses. And who knows, he might have been totally healthy, by the way, but who knows about his timing? And I had somebody yesterday ask me, you know, would you move him out of the 3 spot? And I said, no. I said, I think it's kind of like, I don't know, going to the blackjack table and suddenly having a feeling and hitting on 17 or 18. Like there are just certain things that you stick with. And with this team, you stick with your big 3 hitters. Bobby Witt Jr. struggled and was in a slump himself this round. You're not going to suddenly pull him from batting second like he has all year. Same for Salvador Perez, who was struggling himself. These things happen, but you live and die with your 2, 3, and 4, which is kind of the modern day middle of the line of 3, 4, and 5. Your best hitter oftentimes hits second now, and Bobby did. But I wonder about Vinny's timing. It's hard to get your major league timing back And by the time he came back, the minor league seasons were over. So it's not like there was anywhere to go to work on that timing and get into game action. He had to do it on the fly, and I've got to think that was probably part of it too.
Joel Goldberg, not a guy to hit on 17 at the blackjack table on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. As always, we are streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. So I know we don't give managers, and I don't mean to disparage the job, but it feels like the job has now just become kind of like this, do what the analytics guys tell you to do. The feel of the game has been lost in large part, for better or for worse. The old school guys, the Buck Showalters, the Joe Torres, they're not really in the game anymore. That kind of style of manager is not in the game anymore. So, Coach Q, how much credit do we give him for this turnaround this season with this group of guys?
Yeah, incredible. And I think, this was year number 2. Q would be the first to say it, and he's told it to me before. He goes, look, I'm still learning as we're going here. I'm still new to this. And, sometimes that's just, anything that comes with the role of manager. There's so much for a Major League Baseball manager, the amount of information and data that you're processing, but then also having to manage personalities. And, we're in a different age right now of players than what it was in the early years of a Buck Showalter, or go back to the days of a Joe Torre and a Whitey Herzog, and and even a Ned Yost for that matter. And we're in a day and age. This is the Gen Z era of players right now, and they're different than the ones before. And so this is not a get in your face and motivate guys in the old school way. And I think that there's a lot of nuance to managing people, and he has done that really well. But to your point too, Pete, just about this age that we're in with analytics, there are some teams, and I think you're alluding to this, where the front office, the general manager, the analytics people make up the lineup, essentially playing it like a computer, and that's not the case with the Royals. But they also, when they hired Q, they knew that they needed to take a step into the modern day in every single way, that they couldn't be too far stuck in the past, because analytics are important to the game. The amount of data that is out there that can make these guys better. But I mentioned the Gen Z era of players. The old school would say, "Oh, it's too much information. It's paralysis by analysis." Mm-hmm. The younger generation of player expects that information. I often like to say that if you were to tell a 16-year-old, an 18-year-old, a 20-year-old, "Hey, I need you to go from home to so-and-so place across town. By the way, let me write out those directions for you. You can't bring your phone," they would freak out, right? And I don't mean that as an indictment. We expect, our Google Maps, our Apple Maps, Waze, whatever it is, because we have that technology. And so the Royals players are up to date on all of that now. They have a manager that understands all of that right now, and a staff that understands that. And they've bulked up they're not just their analytics departments, they're data analysts. They travel with a data analyst who's in the clubhouse. So the players expect that. But the other side is that Q does know how to manage with his gut. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to disparage Ned Yost. I'll take this as just the amazing times we had. But if you think back to when the Royals were winning in 14 and 15, and they had HDH in the bullpen, and all those studs, Holland and Davis and Herrera and Hochevar, one of those 2 years was healthy. Ned didn't have to make a whole lot of decisions. Yeah. That doesn't mean it was always right, but you could put that on autopilot. Again, I'm not trying to minimize him, mm-hmm. but Q was mixing and matching on an everyday basis without fear of that. And when you've got to make that choice, when you have choices, you're only right when it works. Yeah. So I think he did a masterful job.
Well, Joel Goldberg, thank you for being on this show consistently over the last few weeks. Would love to keep in touch, keep you on the show as the offseason rolls along, and we'll talk to you soon.
Anytime, and whatever you need, let me know, Pete. And fun to be able to talk October baseball.
Absolutely, love it. Thank you so much to Joel Goldberg for being here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM.